So speaking about firefighters and the battling the blaze, comes this story. So this is from Colin Rugg, where he says just in, LA Fire Chief Crowley doubles down on throwing Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass under the bus. Crowley said Bass's leadership did negatively impact their efforts to stop the fire. And then he goes on to quote the video here, but I'm going to show you the video where the LA Fire Chief, even even for someone like her, she can't even, you know, try to masquerade the mismanagement of city government. The fact that Karen Bass jumped ship, not only out of the state, but out of the country at a critical time of need, when they know that there was a desperate emergency on foot, when they know there was high winds, when you know that there's a drought happening, and it's all the ingredients for an active wildfire to take place at any point in time. Karen Bass is nowhere in sight. So she can't lie for her anymore. And here's what she said on Jake Tapper's show. Listen to this.
Let me be clear. The $17 million budget cut and the elimination of our civilian positions like our mechanics did and has and will continue to severely impact our ability to repair our apparatus. So with that, we have over 100 fire apparatus out of service. And having these apparatus in the proper amount of mechanics would have helped. And so it did absolutely negatively impact. I want to also be clear that I have, over the last 3 years, been clear that the fire department needs help. We can no longer sustain where we are. We do not have enough firefighters. With that, I have also requested multiple budgets, interim budgets, to show how understaffed, under-resourced, and underfunded the LAFD is. So with that, also, we have clear data that shows the LAFD needs more help. We need 62 more fire stations. These reports also show that we've had a 55% increase in overall call volume since 2010. And guess what? We're doing it with less firefighters. I was also directed to develop a plan as part of a budget reduction exercise, and that could equate to $48.8 million. And I rang the bell that these additional cuts could be very, very devastating for our ability to provide public safety. That would have resulted to 15 fire stations closing down and potentially the elimination of over 300 firefighters. Again, I want to be clear that I submitted a very large budget that will actually allow our firefighters to do their job.
So that has been a battle that the LAFD, the LA Fire Department, and the city government have been having for over 15 years. She said back in 2010, she had discussions, she had drafted out these budgets, and she said that in causation of all of this and more cutbacks, they shut down a lot of fire stations. And again, you're talking about California. This is not a remote community, a small town in Mississippi. This is the state of California. California, where you know there's going to be active wildfires on the regular, where there's droughts periodically, where anything to a cigarette butt can start a massive blaze. And they cut back the fire department budget. They cut it back severely. And again, if you want California to remain a possibility of residency for families to grow up in, you have to respond to these. You have to understand that you need these policies in place, especially in a state like California. You need an upgrade on your fire responders. You need more firefighters. You need more stations available to people. As California continues to grow, these are stuff you need specifically in that state. And people like Karen Bass refuse to do so. Karen Bass, on top of all the other previous mayors and other previous city council people that were part of this decision-making as far back as 2010, she just said, have been in part of this, and just how devastating this gets. So here's just some examples of the city mismanagement that caused a lot of the outcry and just the chaotic mess battling these blazes. So the general points out, breaking the Pacific Palisades water reservoir was completely offline and emptied just before the fires erupted in the area. So in California, specifically in the southern parts, they have to get water from the northern part and travel through aqueducts to these reservoirs. They have to preemptively get the water from the northern part, the runoffs of the mountain area and the rainwater and the snow that comes down through the mountains into these reservoirs. And people within Los Angeles, people within this community have been stating numerous times that these reservoirs were drying up. That as we're dealing with the drought, as we're dealing with wildfire season, now you got the Santa Ana winds coming in that makes everything worse. You don't have a water supply. This is where Trump came in and said, we got to get the water from the mountains. Forget about the smelt. The smelt's just too bad. They're like the little Marco Rubios of the sea. That's why he said, we need to bring water in. You can't dump it into the Pacific Ocean. You need to bring that to your reservoirs in case of this emergency. So, as devastating as that. Here's another thing. This is back from 2022. LA County Fire gathers surplus supplies to aid firefighters in Ukraine. Yes, they did that. They did that. We talked about it previously, but yes, they did. They sent a surplus. A surplus. And now California is running out of necessities to fight fires. They're now relying on citizens' handbags and taking pool water from garbage cans to battling the blaze. And they sent it over to the most corrupted nation in Eastern Europe. Supervisor Hahn and the LA County Fire Department joined efforts to gather and donate some supplies to the people of Ukraine. Well, I did see, as getting this article, I did see that Zelensky, I don't know if he's actually true, but there's something been passed around that Zelensky offered to send back the money to California specifically. He's not going to give all the money back because, he needs those GQ headshots, obviously. So here's another video here, again, of the LA fire chief, once again, pointing out that Karen Bass's mismanagement caused a lot of this, how they preemptively destroyed the necessity of a fire department in a state like California. And the Fox News reporter here is going to ask her if you're going to call her out. And watch how, she tries to cover it for so long because obviously you don't want to call it your mayor for the mismanagement because she wants to remain in position like that. But it got to a point where she can't even hold back. So listen to this.
City of Los Angeles fail you and your department and our city?
It's my job to stand up as a chief and exactly say justifiably what the fire department needs to operate to meet the demands of the community.
Did they fail you?
That is our job, and I tell you, that's why I'm here. So let's get us what we need so our firefighters can do their jobs.
Did they fail you?
Yes.
So you could see there, she was trying so hard to not openly state that. She's trying so hard. Well, we need the necessities. We need action. We need policy. We need more measurements in to help the people battling the blaze. And the reporter just as kind as she could be, is she at fault for this? Is she at fault for this? Keep harping on that until the point where she's like, yeah. Like, at some point, you have to understand that Karen Bass is in charge of this. Karen Bass deliberately destroyed the fire department in a place like Los Angeles. She did so many cutbacks and then sent the surplus, off to one of the most corrupted nations in Eastern Europe. And now you're dealing with one of the worst blazes, one of the many worst blazes in California history. And to the point that the fire department just feels like they just got shoved down the stairs. Like, they just felt duped by this. Like, why would you cut back a necessity that in one of these states is almost like a requirement? You want people to live in California where there's wildfires? You need a good fire department. That's the important part. That'd be like in Ontario here, Ontario, Canada, not having snowplows during a blizzard. Oh, we cut back the snowplowing budget. Do you not realize it snows here? Do you not realize how many centimeters of snow, how many feet of snow we can get? You cut back the snow removal process. Or the cops in Toronto and New York City. Like, oh, crime is going up. We'll cut back the police department. Like, do you see how insane that is? To the point that she can't even deal with it. But there's even more chaos to this. Because the Daily Mail says, chaos as LA fire chief called to be fired by the mayor. But she says she's still in her job. So after the response she gave to Fox News there, and to call out on Jake Tapper's show on CNN, she was called in. Because obviously this is going to make the mayor, Karen Bass, look bad. She's now having to do damage. She's now has to go around and find some sort of resonance to reclaim some sort of political stature in this dying city that's being burnt to a crisp because of her mismanagement. So now they call in the LA fire chief, possibly to be fired for speaking out about this. So as the Daily Mail points out, Los Angeles Fire Chief Kitz Crowley is clinging onto her job by a thread, sources say, after she hugged staff goodbye and entered a meeting with the mayor. A source initially told by DailyMail.com on Friday afternoon that the fire chief was fired, but the mayor's office told ABC7 Crowley still had her job. The office's official statement to the outlet said the pair met without any reference to whether Crowley remained in her position. The mayor and chief met. The priority remains fighting these fires and protecting Angelenos, the statement said. But ABC7 reporter Josh Haskell added on social media site X that the mayor's office had officially denied the claims that Crowley had been fired. When Crowley returned from the meeting, she told her office staff that she was not fired yet. The sources said on Friday evening. She was going into the meeting telling everybody goodbye, because she was told the whole purpose of the meeting was to fire her, a source close to Crowley's office said. When she was summoned into the meeting, it was with the direct purpose to fire her. Late on Friday evening, LAFD confirmed the meeting between Crowley and Bass in a statement to DailyMail.com, but added that the fire chief was not dismissed. On Friday, January 10th, Fire Chief Kitz Crowley on the Los Angeles City Fire Department met with Karen Bass, the statement said. Their foremost priorities continue to be fighting the current wildfires and safeguarding Angelenos. It is important to me to note that the fire chief was not dismissed and is in full command of the LAFD. Their meeting came after Crowley lashed out against the mayor's cuts to her department in an interview with a local Fox TV station around 12 noon Friday. My message is the fire department needs to be properly funded, the chief said. It's not. Did they fail you? Fox's LA Gigi Graciette asked. Yes, Crowley replied. That's the video we just saw earlier. The fire department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A second source close to Bass's office told DailyMail.com that they were aware Crowley was called to the office this afternoon, but did not know the outcome of the mayor and chief's meeting. A retired senior LAFD official told Daily Mail that he was shocked by Crowley's comments in her TV interview. In my entire career, a fire chief has never thrown a mayor under the bus. It's unbelievable for her to go down on the offense like that. Well, that's probably why she held back for so long, to the point that the reporter kindly wore her down to the point that, no, we got screwed. We got screwed over. She's in charge of the budgets. She's in charge of the budget. She's collecting all the taxes. She's in charge of the budgets, and she screwed us over. And now we're dealing with one of the worst blazes we have to deal with, short of hand, short of resources, and nothing good is coming out of it. So that's, I think that's probably why she kept on for so long, to the point that, yeah, she did. Yeah, she failed us completely. She failed us completely. It's not on the offensive pact. It's the fact that this is the reality, that Karen Bass deliberately destroyed the fire department budget for God knows what. And that's the sinister part. That's the stuff we don't even know. Why exactly she did so many cutbacks to the LA Fire Department in a state where you know you're going to need the fire department so harshly. So that same guy, he added on that amid fury over alleged failures in the preparedness and the tackling the fires that leveled neighborhoods in Los Angeles this week, the city leaders are fearing for their positions and are starting to turn on each other. So again, that's probably why Karen Crowley didn't want to address this at the start. It was a brilliant move on her part. One of them going to be taken out. Either you're going to go after the mayor or the fire chief, the ex-LAFD top brass said, saying she defunded me. I didn't have the money is a brilliant move. Tensions were already at a boiling point between Bass and Crowley, even before the disastrous fires broke out on Tuesday. The mayor pushed through budget cuts of $17.6 million through a recent city council vote, prompting Crowley to write her a memo on December 4th, warning the slash severely limits the department's capacity to prepare for, train for, and respond to large-scale emergencies, including wildfires. So this is why I'm so harsh against people like Gavin Newsom, people like Karen Bass, city officials, city government, state governments. That is why you have to hold them accountable. You can't let them go wild like this, because they are at the forefront and held responsible. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but if you want people to remain in California, if you want people to live in this kind of uninhabitable spot where there's going to be wildfires, where there's going to be natural disasters, you have to implement. You have to implement policies. You have to increase the fire budget, because you know that wildfires are frequent. You know that there's droughts constantly happening. So what are you supposed to do? You put that money towards water resources. You have to prepare for this stuff. You have to put policies in place to make it a livable, sustained city. But they don't do that. They don't do that. And that is why the LA fire chief told her out. Just said straight up. She screwed us over. And DailyMail.com exclusively revealed a second LAFD memo written this Monday, the day before the Palisades fire began, outlining a further $49 million of cut allegedly demanded by Bass. In shocking statements to Fox LA on Friday, Crowley said she had not been informed that the Santa Ynez Reservoir in the Palisades had been empty and offline for weeks, with scheduled maintenance by LA Department of Water and Power. On Friday, DailyMail.com revealed LAFD insiders were blaming DWP CEO Janice Quisinos for scheduling repairs to the reservoir's cover during brush fire season, and for failing to repair a large number of hydrants, which they said had been broken for years, including in the Palisades. So this just seems like a never-ending kind of buildup of how horrific the complete disregard of city management. And now that you're dealing with a natural disaster head on, this just is a visual, huge kind of in your face kind of like representation of how all these little things, the hydrants not having water, that the reservoirs are completely dry, how they cut back the fire department, is blowing up in their faces. This fiery inferno is now the visual reminder of just how horrific, how mismanaged, how completely arrogant and ignorant the people, the city council and the mayor and the state governor are complacent with this. And that is why I hold them to account. That's why I hold them to a certain standard in the situation like this, just how horrific this is. So here's also to point out too, because of the fact that they're running out of firefighters, which I guess that's probably on their thinking that, hey, we got so many inmates in the prison system, why don't we just use them? We already use them anyway. That's why we have more prisoners in the state of California. We're the biggest penal colony in the country. We'll just use them for pennies a day. But it's gotten so bad that now over 1,000 Canadian firefighters are helping in California, with more on the way, and the Canadian military on standby to help our neighbors and allies have requested. Pray for Los Angeles. This is horrific. Now, I can't show you the video because it's copyright infringement. There's audio and video clips that will get picked up, but you get it. It's just a lot of images of the blaze there. Even here's the New York Times even pointing this out. Canada and Mexico are sending teams to help California fight the fires. Air tankers, firefighters, and technicians from the neighboring countries are on their way to Los Angeles in a show of solidarity. So, goes to show you just the lack of disregard from people like Karen Bass and the city government of Los Angeles, where instead of investing into quality fire care and getting more firefighters within the region, they're looking for cheap quantity. Meaning that, hey, we'll just use inmates. Hey, we'll just use people within the neighborhood. They'll just use shopping bags to put out the blaze. Hey, we'll just get some people from Canada and Mexico, because, why not? They're not doing anything important. They're just going to sit on their asses anyway. They'll help us. Solidarity. At a time where this is going to blow back so hard in the California officials' face. This is going to hurt them and damage them so badly. Especially for people like Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. It is going to wreck them so harshly to know all this buildup, all this stuff that we're knowing now during a massive natural disaster that they're currently fighting to this moment. Now we're finding out all the added ingredients to this mayhem, this catastrophe that's taken so many people at stake. And I'm not saying that it would have prevented it completely, but I'm saying that all this, if we had the precautions, if we put these implementations, if you actually get involved in these policies, it would downtrack a lot of the severity of these fires. You could have had it easily more contained if you had these already in place, if you already had a sustained fire department, if you already had water reservoirs full and continuing to have fresh water coming in from the north. This is why Donald Trump's been harshing on you. It's not political theater, as we'll show later on. It's because of the fact that California, in order to sustain itself, you need to put these policies in place. Otherwise, this is going to just continue on and the entire state will burn to a crisp. And then what will Gavin Newsom say? What will Gavin Newsom say when he can't go to Nobu anymore because all the Nobus have burnt down?